2004 when I walked into that room in, what was it, Providence?
Providence, Rhode Island, at the Marriott Hotel.
And there it was. For years, I wanted to take Silva Mind Control. And there it was, because it was never a weekend meeting. It was a week. You had to take a week to learn the techniques.
Well, it was one solid
And
week.
so that was exciting. And then it's been in and out for that many years.
Yeah.
So amazing. And, I like to, the other podcasts that I've been doing, I like to say to anybody who's watching right now, there's an ancient of the Asian philosophers, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? So if you're watching this, we just appeared.
That's
right. And you keep asking me for testimonials. I'll give you one right now. You are one of the greatest teachers, one of the greatest angels. You've been guiding me all along. You were instrumental in getting me to sell my house. I was stuck. Talk about freedom. This is a great example. Stuck for years in a place I hated to be, had no idea how to get out, had financial problems. And you just said to me, well, you didn't even give me a choice. You said you have to get out of there. And the next thing you did, you picked up the phone, you called one of your Silva Mind Control buddies, Christian Science practitioners, etc. And the next thing you know, he was on the phone to me and my house was listed, and bingo, I sold in January. So thank you.
You're welcome. It all works out.
This lady knows what she's talking about.
Oh, yeah. And I just help someone else find their next home. I'm very good at that because, in my life, personally, I have probably moved. I got up to 35 one day when I was counting. 35 times I have moved.
Wow.
But you know what? It's usually one phone call, or it always happens when it's supposed to. And it's always the right place at the right time.
Well, since we're talking about freedom and Independence Day and all of that, that's a fabulous topic right now. Just the process of what happens when you get in the flow. Once you and I found, one of the things that we do very well together is we find the same books together at the same time.
Right.
And no matter what I find or you find, and you tell me to read, we do it together. And as a result, probably the greatest one was Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill. Excellent. But we also found The Course in Miracles.
That's right.
At the times that Marianne Williamson, it doesn't matter. But let's talk about this, because one of the things that was so empowering about The Course in Miracles, it came down to that, with this book, this thick, that I vowed I would never read because it was on this paper thin, this onion skin paper. It looked like the Bible and it was so dry.
It was a little intimidating when I first found it, I found.
Yeah. But what was weird, and I'm a big believer in destiny. I think we share that same idea that the path is kind of all laid out if you decide to follow it instead of resist it. And I would be in a bookstore and reach for some book that seemed interesting. And for some reason, my hand would touch The Course in Miracles. A lot of times I would pull it out and I'd look and go, oh, put it back. Well, then one day, through one of the miracles of my getting a free car, the car that I got had Sirius XM radio on it. And Marianne Williamson had a program every day. It was on the Oprah channel. And all she did was pick a topic every day, a workshop, and talk about that topic for the day. And she just said, you have to do the job. You have to do the workshops. So I went online and every day I would do the meditations and the workshops. And after all of that study, read the book, and it came down to the two basic lessons are, there's only two choices in life, fear or love. And there's always only one problem. Right. One problem always, separation from source. So if we're going to talk about freedom, you have to get to that point where you connect with the source.
Exactly. And don't you think these times we're living in, the Great Awakening?
Oh, the Great Darkening, or the great Asleep, or the Great Awakening.
Well, yeah, it depends on which side you're on, but it's forcing people to wake up, because when you ultimately have nowhere to go but to source to get your solution, And that's what happens to many, many people like us that are light worker types. We usually have everything taken away from us for a while so that we truly have to go within and rely on our divine intelligence, our connection to source.
Well, this is the adversity, the thing that everybody's trying to avoid today, the pain, the adversity. Nobody wants to have that.
Well,
And
this great
go ahead.
statement, Mary Baker Eddy's book, I love her too, Christian Science. Adversity is God's opportunity.
Yes, that's
And
right. There's where the lessons are,
yes,
and so to educate everybody and to enlighten them right now, you cannot have freedom if you're clinging on to things. Unless in the houses, 35 times you had to let go of a house,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
and I'm just going to use the example of, okay, so here I am, I don't even see it that I have to leave. I'm holding on to it for not even knowing why I'm holding on to it, and thinking, well, this is my retirement, I'll leave this to my kids, this is my legacy. And in the meantime, what I always talk about, being a frog boiled in water. You can't throw a frog in boiling water, he jumps out. He knows he's in trouble. But you put him in cold water and slowly turn up the heat, he dies because he doesn't realize he's in it. And you did that day. You said, hey, buddy, you're getting boiled, get out. And the whole thing happened. But it was amazing. I didn't even have to make that decision. You did it for me. In a house that I had held on to years in New Hampshire, an ex-girlfriend asked if she could use it. She was going through a divorce. I let her use it. The next thing she says, what are you going to do? Same thing. It was long past due. What are you going to do with it? And she said, I'm going to rent it for you. She did. And then she says, well, what are you going to do in the long run? I said, and this was during the housing crisis in 2008. She sold it. All I had to do was go up and sign. It was effortless.
No.
So that's what happens when you become free.
Exactly. Miracles start to show up in the strangest ways. God works in strange ways. You just never know what the solution is until it starts to unfold. And you're such an example of that, because I know how you were really getting in a state of distress.
Oh,
with Boston.
it was a toxic
Yeah.
toxic
And all I
situation.
was the catalyst. I mean, I didn't tell you to move.
Right. Well, again, and that's the individual's responsibility, is to do something. When you just can't sit back, you got to take action, and you got to take responsibility. These are all the things you have to learn in order to be free. I mean,
then you found that taking the action that you were resisting, just everything fell into place. You got the place ready.
well,
it was
again, talk about, feng shui and everything else is part of it, isn't it? That they come in and they start to get rid of all the clutter,
right?
and all the things, and that's part of the letting go process, part of the freeing process. So, and along the way came, I had been out of a relationship for 5 years. And then my buddy kept saying to me, when are you going to date? When are you going to date? And I said, I'm not going to go through the work. If it's going to happen, somebody will come along. And then one night he took out a phone and he showed me a picture of my now relationship. And in 2 seconds, I made the decision. I said, yeah, I want to meet her. And along comes this wild and crazy Marine into my life. She comes in again. She paints the entire apartment for me. I didn't lift a brush. I mean, that's the kind of woman she is. She's a Marine. She takes charge. And then when it came time to move, I never lifted a piece of furniture. She cleaned the and so these miracles, these angels, like you're my angel, these angels come along and help you out. And it's becomes.
Well, last time I moved, I thought, what am I going to do? I can't do this by myself. So I prayed about it, and 2 teenagers showed up. We had a blast for about 3 days. We'd have lunch together and, enjoy ourselves as we were doing it. And it was really fun. And then one of them, Chris, ended up being my assistant
Right.
for a couple of years.
Right.
Which was really helpful to me. I need a new assistant.
Well, we're working on it. Well, there you go. You were the catalyst again. You sent me this video.
Right.
This agency from Australia that has all of these highly skilled, trained university graduate Philippine people to help out. And so I followed up on it, and then bing, bang, bing, I signed up, and here I am. So, and once that gets going, then we'll continue to share those kind of things. But, you know, it was interesting. We found one of the people we found was a fellow named, last name was Scheinfeld. I think it was Robert. And we listened to him for quite a while. And one of the things he actually wrote a book on, he says, what people really want, and I heard this the other day too, people, yes, they want happiness, but what everybody wants more than anything is freedom.
Ah, he said that.
Yeah. And that struck me as interesting because, but he's absolutely right. You know, because once you're free, then you have a shot at happiness.
Right, right. There's nothing worse than feeling trapped.
Oh,
So many
exactly.
people trap themselves in bad situations and they don't. Well, look at how they say what 60-70% of all Americans hate their jobs.
That's right.
51% of me, I don't know, it's even higher now. People end up divorced. Many people are in relationships they're not happy in. They're stuck. But there's always a way to get unstuck.
That's
And
right.
that's why we read all those good books that teach us how to be free.
Well,
Connected
the
to
thing is to understand, even though you may feel alone, you're not alone. If you cut yourself off from source, you know, Alan Watts, you know, he is still my teacher, my ultimate. And he was the guy. I was ready, and he appeared on the radio over 40 years ago. And I remember one of his lectures was, he says, if you uh, do not connect with the power of the universe, if you do not align yourself with that, you're missing the whole ride. He said, you're going to struggle your entire life. And this goes back to Joseph Campbell, who inspired Star Wars. And what was the message? Is feel the force.
Mm-hmm.
Feel the force. Let go. I mean, freedom. What's that great song? Freedom's just another word of having nothing to lose. Chris
Right.
Christopherson,
Yeah.
right?
Nothing left to lose. Yeah.
Right.
Janis sang it too, Janis Joplin.
Yeah, exactly. I think he wrote it and then she sang it. But
Sang it.
that's when I found out I was really free, when I lost everything. Because what happened, here I am. I mean, I just didn't lose everything. I ended up $300,000 in debt. And it was at that point that, before I thought I was an agent of change, I would be the one, was the master of my fate, all of that nonsense, that I could do anything. And then I realized I was way out of my league. There was no way I was getting out of that situation on my own merits. I had no idea how to navigate it. And so, but what was fascinating about it, everybody came after me. I owed everybody. I owed the IRS. I owed all the credit card companies. And instead of panicking, I realized I all of a sudden had power because there was nothing to get.
Yeah.
They could threaten me, they could do this, they could do that, but they couldn't get anything because there's nothing to get. So I had nothing to lose anymore.
Mm.
And that's when you are the freest, when you realize, you know. And I always looked up, because of my situation, we both had situations where we could have died from cancer.
Right.
In my case, you know, I lost a leg, but I kept my life, which it was a blessing, because of the disease I had, if 100 kids got it, 95 died. So it's a miracle I escaped it and am still alive. But once you that you say, well, okay, so if I lose my life, there's nothing else to lose but your life. That's the only thing that's really the ultimate thing. And you're going to lose that anyway. You know, well, there was a great, talking about Watts, one of the most powerful lessons the other day is, I heard him one day saying, you know, he says, when I was a child, I used to say the prayer, the Lord's Prayer. What if I die before I awake? He says, so I really thought about that. Even he was so awake, even as a child. And he said, so I used to dwell on that. What if I die before I wake? He said, well, he says, then I thought about it. How am I here in the first place? He says, so if you die and you're nothing, say, let's assume there's nothing there.
Yeah.
He says, so what? that's the way it is. He says, but yet, he says, I was nothing once. And he says, but yet I'm something now. And it's a good chance that I will be nothing again. He said, so once you realize, and he was saying something that I had learned to say was, I used to tell people who said they were depressed and this, and I say, well, why don't you live your life like you're already dead? And they say, what are you talking about? How can you live your life? Well, if you assume you're already dead, then everything is a blessing. Everything is a positive. And he came out with the saying, says, you must live your life as though you're already dead. You were dead once, you're going to be dead again. And he says, and the more you realize you're nothing, he said, the more the something you will be.
And it gives you freedom.
Yes.
That's the freedom. When you get to a point where nothing really moves you because you don't know how long you're going to be here anymore.
Right.
So I get all hung up on some event that's twisting you all around, making you unhappy, you know? My favorite, the expression I came up with one day when I was driving my car was, if you want to see perfection, change your perception.
Exactly.
And once again, I mean, we've both learned it's all in how you perceive it.
Right. So much of it. Absolutely. You know, and again, coming back to understanding that you only have so much control.
Yeah.
You know, but mostly what you can do, I mean, I love the sayings, you can't control the direction of the wind because I'm a sailor, but you can change the direction of the shape of the sail.
Yeah.
So if the wind's coming straight at you, the only way that you can get where you want to go is you have to tack and work it that way. So we all get dealt a certain hand when we're born, and it's how we play the cards.
Exactly.
But do you play the cards? Do you go solo and, stay stuck and not free? Or do you realize that there's a power guiding you all the way through that you align yourself with? And that's when houses get sold. I don't have to pick up a paintbrush. I don't have to move a piece of furniture, and yet I'm free. And then all the whole series of events that happened after it that put me in a totally different place that I had no idea what I would end up. I think I told you last summer, I got somehow that my voice kept telling me to reread Illusions by Bach.
Right.
Same guy who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Who was a Silva graduate. After the book got finished, the Seagull came back and finished the story for him.
Yeah. And
activated the right side of his brain, which is where all the good stuff is, the creativity.
Right. You tune into the stratosphere, to the other side where the muse. And anyway, I again compelled to read the book. I don't know why. So I get it. And the first, even the preamble, even the preface, even before the book begins, he talks about this fable of these people, these creatures who are on the bottom of the river, and that's where they inhabit, but they all have tentacles and things to keep them tied to the bottom of the river so they don't float away. And they carry on, this is in this mythical world, they carry on life. And all of a sudden one decides, hey, I don't want to stay down here on the bottom. I don't want to stay in this location. I want to find out what's going on with the rest of the river. And so I'm going to let go. And everybody tells him, don't do that. You'll get eaten. A fish will eat you. You'll get banged up against the rocks. And he decides to listen to himself, and he lets go. He becomes the Messiah. And all of a sudden he gets transported down the river into new worlds and new opportunities, and he's free.
Yeah.
He's not stuck anymore.
Letting go.
That's right. That's the biggest component.
Surrender is one of the most important things you can do metaphysically in order to get to the next step.
And it's the scariest.
It is the scariest. It's like jumping off a cliff. You don't know if you're going to make it to the other side.
Well, and again, feeling guided my entire life that we're on this mission. To whoever's listening today, hopefully they pick something up, and please share it and subscribe and everything else, because this is really good stuff that we're teaching. And you know, to realize that you've come here to do certain things. In fact, I think I sent you Picasso's quote the other day. The meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. And so to go along with all of this is, that's when you realize you're never alone.
That's right.
You're never alone. And that's where your strength comes from, is assuming that you're an ego wrapped in skin. That's one of Watt's favorite expressions. You're not an ego wrapped in skin. That's what you think you are. You're not separate from the world. You're not separate from the universe.
You're a multidimensional being,
Yeah.
and you have a higher self that is a guide. You get all the help you need from the other side when you need it. I've seen divine intervention comes in and solves problems in people's lives all the time.
And you and I connect. How many times a week will we have those interventions? There's no other way of explaining it.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. And it can happen for everyone. It's just a matter of allowing it, letting go.
Steve Jobs, I loved his Stanford University press when he says, address, when he said, he says, you never know. He says, first of all, my time is limited. I'm not wasting it living somebody else's life.
Mm,
I will not let the thoughts and opinions of someone else shut out my own inner voice. He says, you never know where the dots in your life will go looking forward. But when you look back, they all make sense. He says,
right.
so you have to trust something, whether it's God, the universe, your inner voice, your intuition. He says, you have to trust that it knows where you're going.
Hmm.
And, you know, there's the freedom again.
Right. Right.
The freedom not to stay stuck, to let go of the rocks, you know, to decide to go down the river. You know, it's that last scene in Star Wars where Obi-Wan tells Luke, Luke, let go. Feel the force, Luke.
Let the force be with you.
Yeah. And so here I am, and find myself in a Catholic university taking all these courses in philosophy and theology. And I was fascinated with Soren Kierkegaard, you know, his Christian existentialism. And sure enough, in the book, The Fear and Trembling, I mean, hell, this is when I'm 20 years old. And he talked about the different stages in life, the aesthetic stage where, you know, we're caught up in how things look and feel and et cetera. Then we enter an ethical stage where we're trying to think about morality and something higher than immediate gratification. And he says, and the third step is the spiritual step. And that's where it all leads.
Hmm.
That if you're going to actualize as a human being, you're going to have to, and he used that analogy exactly. You come to the cliff.
Right.
You've passed through the aesthetic stage, you've passed through the ethical stage, and now the only thing left to do is leap.
Exactly. Okay, Tom, I think on that note, we're going to end it.
Fabulous talk.
And that was great. I really enjoyed hearing your stories about freedom.
Well, wait till people, if they actually do let go, they're going to have their own miracles to share with people.
Absolutely. And all the help is there that they could possibly need.
Yep.
You know, go to my website. I've, you know, Inner Power Training. I'm going to post this on my YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe.
And this lady is incredible, folks. She brings you to the miracles. So listen to her.
I've done it for a few people. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Take care.
See you later.
All right. Bye.